Good afternoon. My name is Terry Greene, music mogul. Let me tell you, we're talking about 45 years being in the music industry. I mean, successful years being in the music industry as a singer, songwriter, producer, musician, author. I've worked with who's who in the music industry. I've worked with a lot of people in the music industry. But let me go back. My career actually started when I was 5 years old. My babysitter said to me, when I was 5 years old, she said, I was walking around the house saying, one day I'm gonna be a big star. And guess what? I had not seen my babysitter until I ran across her again 2 years ago. She said, oh my God, Terry, I've been following you for decades. She said, I am so proud of you. You've done everything that you said that you were going to do. It all started when I was in high school as well. I had a singing group called the Delusions. The members of that group was Jerry Bell, myself, Fred Jones. We did a lot of music. We performed all around West Palm Beach, Florida. We performed at the high schools. We performed all around Florida, the Florida area. And we became very, very popular. But on top of that, I was doing so good. People loved me because I always dressed. And Mason Murphy Klein, the modeling agency, got in contact with me and said, hey, we want to sign you up to be a model. So I started doing modeling work. And that modeling work took me to New York City. And I wound up doing some shows with, the big stuff, Every Fashion Fair. I was doing shows with Every Fashion Fair. But see, at that time, I didn't know whether I wanted to be a model or whether I wanted to be a singer, a songwriter, a producer. I just didn't know. When I was in high school, I learned how to play. I was in the band. I tried to play that trumpet. Not enough win. Then I went to clarinet. I didn't like that. Then I went to drums. I like that. Then I went to bass guitar. I like that. So my mother, at the time, when I was in high school, she said, son, she said, let me set you, I'm gonna give you some money to start your own recording studio. My mother gave me the money, and I went out and bought recording equipment, put it in my room, learned how to work everything, and started recording on one of those old-fashioned reel-to-reels. And I started recording songs. I've always, ever since I was a kid, I've always heard these beats. Before the beatbox even came out, I was doing beatboxing in my head. I heard all the music, all the instruments, everything in my head. Before beatbox even existed, I was writing songs. I've been writing songs since the age of 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 years old. I have a catalog of songs right now, 650 songs in my song catalog. I did performances all around town. I went out as a solo artist, performing at the Grand Theater. My father had a nightclub, 2 nightclubs. I performed in both my father's nightclubs as a solo artist under the name of Jerry Greene. And fortunately enough, I received a phone call back in 1979. But prior to that, I was a friend of mine that was in the group, in the Delusions group. Jerry Bell was living in Philadelphia. So Jerry found out that I was living in New York at the time, and he said, Terry, so I'm in Philly, why don't you come to Philly? So I went over to Philadelphia to visit my friend Jerry. At that time, Jerry was signed with, he could work with Harold and the Bruno, he was the lead singer. And he also worked with Newport, he was the lead singer for Newport, and then he went with the Dash Band. He was the lead singer of the Dash Band. Then he had his own solo career. But what I'm trying to say is, I was able to, my experience in the big recording studio, the Gown and Hub Studio, Philadelphia International Records, I was able to sit in on recordings with Archibald and Treehouse, the Blue Notes, the Times, the OJs, Billy Paul, Evelyn Champagne King, McFadden and Whitehead, Teddy Pendergrass, Harold and the Blue Notes. That was a big experience for me. That was huge experience for me. And also, I went to business school. See, I didn't want to jump out being a singer. I wanted to know the music business. I went to school in New York City, business school. So, and got a business degree. Got my BS degree. And because I wanted to be in financing, I learned about finances. I learned how to run a business. So that was a good thing for me. I didn't want to dive in and say, hey, you know what, let me just go on and be a singer. But when I was in business school, I was offered a contract with a record company. That was my first recording contract. And to tell you the truth, I was so scared. I did an audition. They wanted to sign me right away, the same day. Come back tonight, we want to record you. That freaked me out. I said, oh my God, man, I'm scared. Because in the industry, there were rumors, back then, like, hey, you sign a contract. And you say you don't want to sing, they're going to beat you up and break your legs, or, they're going to terrorize you. I said, oh, I want no parts of it. I was young. I was scared. I was young. So years later, I decided that this was crazy. I decided that I wanted to join the military. I had did everything, went through everything. I went through the whole 9 yards. And I was just about getting ready to sign the last piece of paper. My friend Jerry Bell called me in 1979. I had just moved back to Florida, take a break. Jerry said, Terry, do not sign those papers. I'm with MCA Records, which is now Universal. And at that time, he was signing MCA Records. He wanted me to be his road manager. But he also knew that I had went to school, business school. And he said, Terry, I want you to be my road manager. I said, man, I don't know. I never done that. I don't know anything about that. So he said, well, come out to LA. I told my parents, they were happy. They thought I was going to sign that paper, man, and go into the military. I told my family what happened. They said, how you going to go way out to California with $100 in your pocket? I said, I'm going. I left Florida, went out to California with $100 in my pockets. My friend Jerry Bell put me up. I was living with Jerry Bell. And man, that was an experience of a lifetime. When I moved to LA, there was no one. This is what we did for 5 years in a row. Leaving home at night, 4 o'clock at night, we didn't get back home until 6 o'clock the next morning. We were all around the place, performing all around the place. But I ran across so many superstars. I met everybody. From Oakland and Obi Robinson, the Jetson, Molly Gills had a nightclub called Molly's Place. And I used to hang out there. All the celebrities would hang out there. Carlos and Charlie, that's another spot too. I even met Red Fox, Sammy Davis Jr. I was hanging out with those guys. Richard Pryor, Comedy Club. It was like who's who in the music industry. I was hanging out. I was at MCA Records. I hooked up with the Guy Band. I used to go to their studio with Lionel. Go there. Dick Griffin studio. They had the Whispers, Shalimar, the Deal. I was like, there. I was in the parking lot. Well, they recorded all this music way back in the 80s. I'm an 80s child. My music and everything, it goes way back. 79, this is what I'm talking about. So I had all of that experience. And then on top of that, I had Jerry Bell and I had a chance to be in a Mexican movie. We were in a Mexican movie, but the movie was showing over in Mexico. Then on top of that, I was connected up with, I knew people that knew everybody. I started getting a name around LA. I was hanging out with, listen, I was record up with MCA Records. We used to play softball with CBS Records. So at the time, I was hanging out with Joe Jackson's office. You know who they are, Michael Jackson's father. I was hanging out in his office. I was hanging out in Marvin Gaye's manager's office. hanging out with Marvin Gaye, come to my house, and all of that. We used to go to Earth, Wind and Fire Band, hang out at that field on weekends, man, eat collard greens and potato salad, chicken, fried chicken. Man, that was, George Benson's house, Stevie Wonder studio. Man, listen. That experience in itself, I'm talking about that experience in my book. It's a big experience. I will never ever forget where I came from. But guess what? People were like fans. When I met all of these different people, I mean people like Dinah Shore, the Jeffersons, all these different people. Carol O'Connor had a restaurant in Beverly Hills to hang out there. That's where all the stars used to hang out. And Dinah Shore's had a store downtown in Beverly Hills. Then I said to myself, listen, I am sick of LA. I'm not getting rest. I'm not resting. I'm not getting sleep at all. I mean, going to work at 12 o'clock at night and coming back home 6 o'clock in the mornings, from hanging out, doing all the clubs, doing just a whole lot of stuff, but it was all music. And I did that for like 6-7 years in a row. I got tired of that. So I had a cousin that lived down in Oakland, California. And he said to me, so look, man, if you want to move down here, you can move in with me. And you sound like you say you want to get out of LA. So what I did was, I moved down to LA. Now I'm in Oakland. I left Oakland. Everybody thought I was crazy. They said, man, why you gonna leave Hollywood? I said, bro, I'm tired of this singing, man. I want to slow my life down. I'm sick of this. I want to do the right stuff. I just want to just calm down, cool down. And then I want to launch my solo career. Because see, listen, this is what I'm saying. I traveled the world with all these superstars, and I was the guy behind the scenes. I was working behind the scenes doing these tours, traveling with these artists everywhere. And they didn't know how to sing. And they said, man, you gonna keep doing this? You gonna keep being a banana? Because that's what I was. They tell me, say, Ted, go to the store, I need some bananas. I need an apple. Whatever their desire was, I was that man behind the scenes. Go get me some lemonade, popcorn, go get me a sandwich. That was my job. But I could sing at the same time. And other big people in the industry, they said, man, when are you stop being a road manager? When are you gonna launch your own career? So what I did, I moved down to Oakland, California. But guess what? When I moved down to Oakland, I was still working with my friend Jerry Bell. So I was going back and forward from Oakland down to LA. We were still doing the same thing, same shows, same work. I got sick of that. I said, hold it, man. They said, Terry, if you don't work through this, you are never ever going to launch your own career. I woke up. So what I did was, when I moved down to Oakland, I had already had a name for myself, working with superstars in the industry. People knew it. So I went down to Oakland. They said, man, there's no music business down there. I said, I'm going to go down to Oakland. I'm going to create music business. Oakland. You got guys like Sly Stone, the San Francisco Bay Areas, Larry Graham, Huey Lewis and the News, Jeannie Tracy. I work with a lot of those artists down there. When I moved down to Oakland, I connected up with a guy named, he was working with Jeannie Tracy, Sylvester's background singers. He was working with Sylvester. He was working with Johnny Taylor's son. This guy was working with, he was working with a lot of people, man. And someone introduced me to him, and he said, hey, I told him I wanted to launch my solo career. So he signed me, he picked me up, took me up on his wings, and we had about 10 artists under his label. And we were performing all around Oakland. I had a chance to perform at sitting on the dock of the bay. I performed at the dock of the bay. Otis Redding. I was like, oh my God, I'm at the dock of the bay singing. At the Dock of the Bay with Otis Redding, I said, that really I felt really great. And then there was a club called Ivy's where all the entertainers came. Everybody from who's who used to come to Ivy's and perform. I performed at Ivy's. A lot of other artists performed at Ivy's. And Oakland became to be a mega. It was growing in Oakland. People started recognizing me in Oakland being a singer. So, believe it or not, I was moving so fast, man, God was connecting me up, man, left and right with people. And the next thing I know, man, I was like in the big studios with the big boys working. I was in the studio. I used to be in the studio, same studio. I lived down the hallway with Narada Michael Walden. He's working with Aretha Franklin. I was like, oh my God. Look at these people, man. Jeannie Tracy, Whitney Houston. That was their producers. And I wound up meeting him through some other people. I had an artist who I was dealing with. I wrote a song, she liked it. She put it on her album. And at the time, there were 12 inches. She put it on her album. We recorded that album in Narada Michael Walden's studio. Japan Studio, that was the name of the studio. I might be wrong. Forgive me, Nada. But anyway, I did a lot of recordings out of there. In that recording, we worked with Wayne Wallace, Funk and Function, and Earth, Wind and Fire. I was in the studio, I was doing some work with Jeannie Tracy. I did some things with Rosie Gaines from Prince. They did a big promotion thing on the radio station out there. It was a big press release. So they were like, for the stars, there were a lot of us there at this big music business convention inside Ivy's. It was huge. And I had a chance to meet Rosie Gaines. Nada was there. Felipe Wynn from the Spinners. I was with everybody. I started really getting a big name for myself down in Oakland, California. Started becoming to be famous down there. People found out that not only was I a singer, but I was a singer, songwriter, producer, artist, musician. And guess what? I wanted to write a book. I had been taking notes since I was 12 years old. I said, one day I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna put my own book out. This is what I wanted to do. So what happened was, from Oakland, I decided that I wanted to make a move. Let me say this a little bit. I met this guy, he was my mentor. I met this guy, his name was Joe Capers. We call him Blind Joe. And Joe Capers was the guy that he did some work with MC Hammer, Digital Underground, Tupac, In Vogue, Sheila E., Tony Tone. And guess what? Joe Capers was my mentor. I happened to be I was in the studio with all of these artists. The thing that we were doing in the Joe Capers studio, we were all doing demos trying to get a record deal. And everyone was there. We weren't even famous yet. What happened was, everybody wound up getting signed. All of us got signed to record deals. I put out a record. I put out the first 12-inch record in Joe Capers' studio under my group called Lick, L-I-C-K-K-E. And the vision of that group was, it was like an international thing, overseas music, a mix of rap, rock, pop, R&B, jazz. When I put that record out, no one had never heard anything nowhere near like it. That record put us over the top. Record companies started calling. People started saying, hey, we want you in New York, we heard your record. So my brother lived in New York City. His name is Richard L. Greene. He had a salon called Crown and Glory. And he is and still now, he's a celebrity artist working with the stars. So he worked with a lot of the celebrities. He was doing everybody in his salon. And he said, Terry, I got your records, man. These people, you got to come to New York, man. So I moved to New York, and Richard started connecting me up with all these different record companies. Because these guys just come and get their haircut cut in his salon. So he hooked me up. I started meeting all these different people. And I went back in the studio. I was shopping that record all over New York City. They told me, they said, Terry, man, we like your record, man. It's different, but, say, man, we can't do anything with the record. I said, what? Why? They said, Terry, say, man, you own the writers, you own the publishing, you got your own record label, and your distribution company. Said, what do you need us for? I really needed them because I needed a record company to have millions of dollars to back me up because I didn't have that kind of money. So what happened was, they said, well, we're going to give you an open door. Whenever you record something else, Terry, present that to us, no problems. So what I did was I went into a studio and I recorded a whole brand new album. And that album itself was like a bomb. I mean, I was like all over the place with this album, man. I had songs that came out that sound like Rick James. He was one of my mentors. I had other songs. I was all over the place. I had songs that sound like a sheaf, songs that sound like Joe, songs that sound like let me see. As a matter of fact, songs that sound like Keith Sweat. I was doing different types of music in my recordings. So in my studio, my brother's hair salon, there was a guy that was an insurance agent. He said, look, man. He said, man, my brother sing, man. He said, well, your brother got a cassette? During that time, we had cassettes. I said, yeah, I got a cassette. So he said, give me a copy, let me listen to it. So he told me, he said, Terry, he said, I gotta connect. I'm gonna give you a tape to Sylvia and Joey Robinson from the Sugar Hill Gang. They live right across the street from him. He said, you don't mind, do you? I said, no, man. I said, I'm trying to get a solo deal. So he let them hear my music. They were blown away. They were like, oh my God, where's this guy at? Where's he at? So they wanted to meet me. So I went out to their house. I didn't go to their house. I went out to their mansion at that time. Oh man, they had paintings in the house worth over $250,000. Artwork. Had a recording studio in there. In the backyard, in the back. They had all the Ferraris, Rolls Royces. These people were filthy rich. They were rich. And they had just started a new record company called Bone and Me Records. And they had Motown was going to be the distributor. So they offered me a contract. They were looking for artists to sign to this new label. So they signed me. They signed me as an artist. They had other artists. They had another guy they signed that sounds like Luther Vandross. They had signed Charlie Wilson to the label. And quite a few other artists. And during that time, what they were called faxing, during that time, it was called telex. And they were telexing all of our stuff overseas, all over the world, promoting us. And I was anxious. I was happy. Signed my deal, major deal. I was like, well, when is my stuff gonna come out? When is it gonna come out? My album's finished. When is it gonna come out? So they were still putting all the pieces and everything together, trying to decide which direction, where to go at, and all the stuff like that. So I got tired of waiting. So now I'm waiting 6 months. I'm like, hold it, man. When is my stuff going to come out? So I was young. People were like, man, you got to be more patient, man. You know, we got all these other artists and stuff like that. You know, I'm like anxious. I want my stuff to come out. So what I did was, I started performing all around town. A good friend of mine, Jimmy Bohorn, came to New York. He was performing in some of the nightclubs in New York. He found out I was in New York. He called me. He said, Terry, man, come to some of my shows. So he said, I'll pick you up. So Jimmy came to my apartment at the time, picked me up in a limo. We went to his show, and I told him I was connected. I had signed this deal with the Sugar Hill Gang. He knew who they were. So he said, Terry, can you connect me? I said, yeah, man. I said, what you got? I said, you got any new music? He said, well, everybody know me, man. I'm known all around the world. I got these hit records and all that. I said, okay. I said, I set up a meeting with them, with you. So what happened was, Ronald Isley lived right across the street from them. And at the time, I set this meeting up with Jimmy. Jimmy, I got the meeting for him. I got him in front of the Sugar Hill, Joey Robinson, and Sylvia. They know all about him, but they wanted to sign Jimmy too. But what they wanted Jimmy to go in a different direction, that get away from the old stuff that he was doing. They wanted him to do new music. And what they presented to him, they were saying, look, say, Jimmy, say, we really want to sign you, but we want Terry Greene, we want our Terry to produce you. And Jimmy was like, well, I got my own people. He said, well, why can't Terry produce you? Terry is the one that brought you to us. Like that, right? So they couldn't iron out, they couldn't put a deal together for Jimmy. But I was still signed with them. They just kept moving on. And then what happened was, I wound up releasing, because I got tired of waiting. I already had my own record label, Solid Tracks Records. So what I did was, I released another single off of my album, even though I was signed with Joey Knows. And I released that single, and I started performing all around New York City. And I was started networking. I was doing a lot of work. And during that time, when I was in New York, I need to go back a little bit. I left West Palm Beach, Florida, to go on a tour with George McCrae back in 1974. Got to New York.
But then it happened.
I was going to be a sound man, working with his manager. And we got to New York. George's record was so hot overseas, over in Africa, Switzerland, London, that they canceled the tour because they wanted George to be in all these other different places. His manager, that used to be James Brown's manager, he was setting up a tour for George to go on tour. So they canceled the tour. So now I'm in New York and I'm like, whoa, tour's been canceled. What am I gonna do now? So I said, man, I'm not